Hello everyone, this is Max from Small Fish Collective once again. I wanted to do a small video today about something that's very near and dear to my heart, and that is user experience. And to a lot of people, you're going to hear me say this and it's like, well, Max, aren't you a marketing guy? And I am, but I apply a very, very deep user experience concept to what I teach and to what I preach and execute. Marketing is something that's very subjective. Yes, there are some rules that are pretty hard set, but overall, at the end of the day, they kind of all depend on the person's likings and kind of just in general desires. You kind of just pick what you want to be your logo, and you pick what you think looks good, and you kind of go ahead with it. And that's something that always bothered me heavily. And that's why I really changed to more of a data focused and user experience focused type of marketing. It's how I fell in love with e-commerce, and I think it's something that's gonna really resound for a lot of you because you'll see they're very good examples of why I come off as a huge dick sometimes. The difference between marketing and user experience is that user experience has actual laws. It's not based on opinions and things like that. It's based off data, and most of it is actually not marketing, it's psychology. The laws that I'm going to show you today are things that, yes, apply to marketing and apply to e-commerce and the web in general, but they were not thought of that way at all at first. They were just like regular old university PhD experiments, and over time, marketers have decided to kind of use those concepts. Well, if they work in the wild or as a general concept, surely it'll work on a website, on anything else, and they do. And it's something I wanted to talk about for a little bit now. And it just this amazing website called lawsofux.com popped up on my feed the other day. I just kind of made me decide to do it. We're gonna kind of go through a few of the laws that they outlined there, and I'm going to talk to them a little bit and give you more examples about them. But the laws that I'm about to show and talk to you today about are a lot of the reasons why sometimes when I'm asked questions or there's comments on the Facebook post that I make, I'm very kind of brash and quick to set things in stone, because for a lot of my clients, you are artists. You make clothes, you make beautiful jewelry, you make or you're teachers. Sometimes you make educational toys and things like that, and that requires a lot of creativity, and it's very kind of subjective in the end. You kind of decide what you want to make, and you kind of force what is beautiful to you onto people, and you hope that they like it back. And oftentimes, when I work with people on websites and things like that, they'll tell me well, I would like my button to be this way and my logo to be there and, products to be displayed this way. And at the end of the day, yes, I want you to like your website, but I also want you to make the most money possible. And oftentimes the things that look good to you and even to me are not the best. And I have proof. I'm not pulling this out of my ass. I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm not trying to tell you I know better. It's just, I want to make you the most money. And so I'm going to tell you about the hard facts, the stuff that I know exists. And I know that it's hard to understand at first and you need examples, but it's really, really dead simple at the end of the day. And I just wanted to convey that today. So we're going to switch to lawsofux.com. You can follow along or just, follow the video. But we're going to start with, I don't know if we'll do all 14 of them. It's kind of excessive, but I'm just going to give you a few examples so that you can kind of see what these laws are and, how they reflect to e-commerce and how they're translated. And the first one is a pretty, really common one called Hicks Law. You might not have heard of it as this, but you'll understand the concept right away. So the time to acquire a target is a function of the distance to and size of the target. And this is was done by psychologist Paul Fitts. It's a very famous experiment. And basically what it means is that if you want things to be easily selectable, make them large and make them close to users. So what this means is this is the reason why we like large buttons, why we like them to be very near to the edge of the screen. So you want them at the bottom, or you want them to the side. You want them to be very close to where the mouse might be. And this is literally one of those things where you can't argue it. It's, if you want some things to be easily selectable and used, make them big. I want that Shop Now button to be used as much as possible. So I'm going to make it big, and I'm going to make it in a way that I know is close to where my user is going to start. And if we move on to the next law, Hicks Law. And this one is also very, very important, because a lot of you will have a lot of products on your shop and a lot of different collections, and I'm going to give you shit about it, and you don't understand why. This is why. This is really simple. The more you give, the more choices you give, the longer it takes people to decide, and that just gives them more chances to not decide or to not buy. And this is like the big problem with a lot of you guys. When I tell you like, hey, you need to trim down your inventory, I'm not trying to tell you that you do too much or that there's too many things. That's great, that's fine, but make it into smaller chunks. Make it into more manageable steps for the user. Maybe the first step is just necklaces. And then once you click on necklaces, it'd be great if there was like an option for, simple necklaces and then like your really, really expensive ones, things like that will allow the user to just like go like, all right, I want necklaces. Yeah. Oh no, I don't want the fancy necklaces. I want the simple ones. Cool. Like that's like, that goes quick. And then if you want to have all the simple necklaces like broken down there, then that's fine, because people have already made a bunch of decisions that, leads them towards a point. And at that point, it's okay. At that point, they want a lot of options. And again, this is not something I'm pulling out of anywhere. This is just like an American psychologist and a British psychologist who made a bunch of experiments on the reaction time given to any stimulus by a human. And this is what they came up with. The reason we like it today is that a button is a stimulus. A shop is an ensemble of stimuli. So you want to be able to work with what makes the most sense. If we move to the next law, Jacob's Law. And this is another one that I really like. It's made by a guy that was, that worked at Apple. And Apple is very well known for a revolutionary concept that is the object-based user interface in general. It's something that you don't really realize if you've really done a lot of coding, or if you had one of the first computers. But the way we see computers today, with an object-like interface, like we have a desk and we have folders and we have icons that like launch applications, stuff like that. That's a very it's a relatively new concept. For the longest time, computers did not have a visual interface at all. It was just a bunch of code, and you could still do a lot of stuff. You could still do most of what you do today, but it was a lot harder to use. A lot of people got really good at it and are still good at it today, but a visual interface is a lot easier for people to understand, because that's how they interact with the world in general. Computers were a new thing, so you needed to, that's when they really exploded, because they were able to show people like, hey, look, this is just like what you do in real life. It's just like way better. And this is something that you need to do on your website as well. In this case, it's that the fact that users will spend most of their time on other websites, right? Like they don't spend most time on your site. That's not realistic. But what you have to acknowledge is that users will prefer to work on something that is familiar, that works a lot like all the other sites that they visited before. What's another e-commerce site that they visited before? Probably Amazon. And what's something that Amazon has? It has a lot of filtering options for all their products. So you can like click on products that only have like 5 stars and products that come only from Canada, stuff like that. And that means that you kind of have a requirement now to have similar filtering options, because that might cause churn from your users. They might end up being like, oh, well, this is complicated to visit. Like, I'm just going to go on Amazon, or I'm going to go somewhere else. So you need to make sure that your website works a lot like the most popular things out there. That they have the same kind of feel, and that not necessarily feel, but same way of being used. And if we move on to the next one, the law of, I never know how to say this one. I think it's Pragmas, but anyway. People will conceive and interpret ambiguous or complex images as the simplest form possible, because it is the interpretation that requires the least cognitive effort for us. The thing is, like, our eyes work in certain ways, and again, this is science. This is not some things that I'm just telling you. Some weird guru telling you like, hey, I've tried this and it works. It's a psychologist in 1910, and he discovered something when he saw flashing lights on a railroad crossing. And he realized that the lights had basically several different modes, like to flash and stuff like that. And he realized that in some cases they don't, the different shapes didn't appear, or that the flashing didn't appear to the human eye, because that's just how our eyes work. They simplify things. They have to bring in a lot of different information, so they won't give us exactly what they see. They'll try to simplify things so that you're not overloaded and that your eyes don't strain themselves. And so that means the human eye will find simplicity, and he'll dumb down complex shapes. So it means that if you have, a complex logo, if there's a lot of lines in it, your users are not going to see it the way you would like them to. And also, when a website is very simple, when there's not a lot of inputs, it is pleasing to the eye. Like, not from a, perception point. It's just like it's pleasing to the eye at a basic biological level. This is not a societal thing. It's like people all over the world, no matter their, level of computer proficiency or, societal background, they will find a simpler website more pleasing to the eye. It'll make them feel good because their eyes are just not straining. It's just a basic human biological response. So that's why you want to make a website that is really, really not busy and very simple to the eye. If we move on to the law of proximity, this is another important one because of the way shops are organized these days. So when you have these objects that are near to each other, so for example, images of in a shop, in a marquee, and the eye tends to kind of like group them together. So that's why it's important to have like really, really well organized sort of collections, because if you don't, the user will not see the differences between things. He'll kind of go like, oh, that's all dresses, let's scroll down. That's not what I want, I'll scroll down. And even if you've put them together and the images are different, that's not how the brain works. And again, this is another like psychology experiment. Let's do a couple more and then I'm gonna wrap this one up. But let's not do this one. Let's do Miller's Law. Miller's Law is a really cool one. The average person can only keep 7 minus or plus 2 items in their working memory. And so what that means, well, it's self-explained, and again, this is a psychology experiment that they've tried. They've tried to make several people memorize and blah, 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 and the average human can keep only 7 in their minds. And what that means is that you don't want to, it's very similar to the other one with overloading the eye. It just means that you want to make a very simple list or, output for people. You want them to have only about 7 items in a collection or on a page, because that means that they'll remember all of them. There's no chance that they're going to scroll and scroll and scroll and, oh my God, I love that first item, but I don't remember it, if there's 15 items, maybe I'll love the first item, but as I scroll, I'll forget, or I won't remember at the end of the list, oh yeah, that first item was really cool, or that second item. But if there's only 5, then that for sure I'm going to see them all, even if I have to scroll down a page. There's only one product per scroll, but still I'll remember them because I haven't seen that much to overload me. And there's just another one that I wanted to really find. I saw it earlier. Pragmas Law. No, it's not. I wanted the serial position effect. So users have a propensity to best remember the first and the last item in a series. So that's another way that you want to look at, organizing all your different items in a collection. Because the first and the last are the ones that makes the most impact. Now, the beginning and the end depends on where your website is and how it's organized. So, for example, the beginning and the end might be a page on your website, but it might be, a series of options and things like that. So, for example, if, you have an option that's more expensive or makes you more money, you want to put it first, or you want to put it last. You want to put the 2 best options want to be first and last. That's how you do it. You wouldn't do it alphabetically. You would do it in following with the law of the serial position effect, which would give you the best chance of selling those 2 more profitable options. And this is just a couple examples of what I constantly talk about, but I realize that if I'm not showing you the laws, if I'm just kind of giving you the end examples, you're not understanding where I'm really pulling all this from. And this is not even data that I've experienced. This is data that very famous, brighter, smarter scientists than me have categorized over the years. And this is why I end up, so often telling you no, this is how you do it. No, websites work this way. No, you can't have your button there, or, blue is a better color for your button. And it's not subjective. It's because there's actual tests in user experience research that tells you, blue is a conversion color. We've tried all colors for all buttons, and people click on blue more often. So make your button blue. Stop. Unless it doesn't work with your branding, don't do it. There's just a couple things like that, and when I tell you, you want your checkout to be 1 step if possible, and that's another kind of example here. If you give people too many chances to kind of drop off, they will. If the process becomes too complex, if it's not as easy as another website, they won't do it. That's not just things that I've experienced over the years. There's laws about this. There's actual research that if you do this on any input, anything, people lose interest, they lose attention. And in some cases, it might not be dramatic, but in your cases, you're losing sales. So I'm going to tell you these things. I'm not going to indulge you or tell you oh, maybe it's not too bad, or yeah, maybe you can do it your way. Why would you? Why would I let you do that? Because in the end, if I'm letting you do it your way and you fail, I won't work with you more. This is a very self-serving thing. I'm doing it so you'll hire me more. So you'll make more money and you'll be wow, Max has, really good insight. I'll follow him. Or I could tell you no, go ahead, go with the color you prefer. And yep, sure, 4 steps on your checkout is great. And you're just going to go bankrupt and not hire me anymore. And I lost a client. That's not something that interests me, and it's a very basic point of view. And I understand that it's hard to kind of hear at first. And it's easy to take it personal. I know I did it first. But it's not about that. It's about simple rules. And in the end, we should be thankful about it. There's a lot of stuff that is very, very hard to understand about running a business and the web in general. There's a lot of stuff that are just like, just out of our hands, and we're just kind of, we're subject to these large forces. But in the case of building your website, you actually have a set of laws. So, why not follow them? I hope you like this video. If you have any questions, just shoot me a comment below this video, and I'll try to answer everything I can. I hope you have a great week ahead of you guys, and if you want me to talk about anything else, I'm always welcome to suggestions. Just leave a comment, or max@smallfishcollective.com. Just shoot me an email and tell me what you would like to hear about. Bye.